I think Tevez going to Juventus, what a coup that was for me. I mean,
on a head-to-head battle, Atletico Madrid can do more damage to Barcelona than the other way around.
Either he's really blind or he's fixing the match. I can't see it any other way.
I'm trying to get Sir Bob on my side here by saying City will win the Premier League.
it is an upset. You would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
It's football. It's damn football. Like Ferguson said, football. Bloody marvellous.
Yeah, well, the celebration was, I can't believe I just scored against Mexico. At one point, Parma, I think it's something like 224 players under contract. Hey, they're going to throw me out of here, fellas. You're going to get me arrested on your show.
If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You know, you're going back to play for, like in Argentina, for River Plate or Boca Juniors, or you're going to Europe.
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
Now, the Premier League is the most exciting league out there. I think it's probably the best marketed league without a question.
When you look at the draw for the Champions League, you kind of say, well, all the pieces kind of fell into place for everybody except City.
I am your host, Joe Usello.
Sir Bob, Mike Orr.
My co-host, Rob Rojas. My trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 89 of Low Limit Football on this 14th of September 2015. I am your host, Joe Usello, and glad to be back after a wildly successful 2-year anniversary show last week where we had a star-studded lineup of guests to bring to you. We had the leagues kick back off again this week after the international break and hiatus. We can officially talk about the close of the transfer window and the mess that was David De Gea, and bring you all other kinds of news and information tonight in a nice compact 90-minute show, hopefully. Going first up to Toronto, Mike Orr. Mike, what's going on? How are you tonight?
Hey, Joe. Doing good. How are you?
Good. How'd the weekend treat you?
Good. How'd the Blue Jays treat your Yankees?
Whatever. Listen, not just about the same as my Cowboys treated the New York Giants last night.
I've seen they came back.
Yeah. Tony Romo, remember the big choke artist flop that everyone likes to talk about him?
I think you might even have said that once or twice.
Nope, I've never said that.
Okay.
I've always backed him, and I've always said everyone's always quick to talk about the Cowboys should get rid of Tony Romo, blah blah blah, and I said, okay, great, let's get rid of him. Who are you going to go get? And no one can ever give me a good answer. So I have always backed Tony Romo. And did you know, I saw the stat last night, not to totally throw this into a hand egg conference, but Tony Romo has more fourth quarter comebacks than anybody else that is active in the NFL. That includes that Tom Brady guy, Mr. Deflategate, and either of the Mannings. So, he ain't that bad. Let me send it over to the disgruntled Giants fan in Connecticut. Rob, what's going on, man?
Sometimes I wonder if we're actually on planet Earth when the Jets and the Mets sweep in a single weekend.
Yeah, that is a little unusual, but we're gonna.
Speaking of Deflategate, there's some rumors that the Revolution were deflating balls this weekend against TFC.
It didn't matter, dude. TFC played awful.
I actually thought they played pretty good.
I thought
the defense is just, they only had 2 shots on goal and scored 3 goals.
If they had somebody decent to help Sebastian Giovinco, we would be talking about a different story. First of all, did you see?
I thought Michael Bradley played good, except for that one boneheaded move.
Did you see the double nutmeg?
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. I wrote to you in chat to watch it if you hadn't seen it.
So sick. And, gentlemen, I also want to point out, just looking at the chat room tonight, Liam and Luca both in the house, guys. So
welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah. Glad to see you guys are in there, and I'm sure many of the other folks will be along shortly. Usually Zach and Edmund end up in here soon, and Debbie always is around. So, that it was a great game to watch. I just. Man, it felt like Toronto, and I didn't go back and look at the stats, but Toronto for me really had the bulk of the possession in the match.
It was. I know you said they played awful, and they lost, but for me, it was one of the better games I've seen them play this year.
It's probably I'm over exaggerating it. I shouldn't say that they played awful.
But they dominated the first half.
They certainly dominated. They dominated most of the game.
They just couldn't put anything in the net.
No finish.
Couple wide headers off the crossbar.
Yeah, and then the Revs would come back down the pitch and score. And that was
they would expose that terrible defense that we have. Right.
Actually,
that we've always had for 9 years. That's been Toronto's whole problem forever.
Well, like I said to you in chatting last night, they should probably take Josie Altidore, drop him off in an abandoned bus stop, take the money they paid him, and go find a really good defender.
I'm not as harsh on Altidore as you are, but it just makes me wonder, had they taken some of that money and spent it on a defender and just kept Gilberto.
Yeah, and just kept Gilberto. Yeah.
That
would have been a better option.
That would be two quality defenders, actually. The difference between Altidore minus Gilberto's salary leaves two defenders.
Right. And I also want to send a shout out real quick. Noel Alberto, who Rob, you got to listen to. Viva Vavel is in the chat room as well. So I want to say welcome to the show. And glad you could join us. So, we've got a great guest lined up for tonight, guys. I mean a really, really, really good guest. This is a guy that we actually couldn't make last week's show because he had other commitments, but he's going to be with us tonight. And that is ESPNFC's Miguel Delaney is coming on. So we're going to get to talk to him about the EPL. I'm really, really excited. This guy is a home run guest to have on the show, and I can't wait to be able to talk to him. And if I did, I should have said Noel. If I said Noel, my apologies. But it is Noel. So, but great guest to talk to tonight. And we're going to get his insights into the EPL. And if you ever get a chance, go to ESPNFC. Just search Miguel Delaney on ESPNFC. He's written some great articles on there, and we're going to talk to him about some of his material tonight. So,
it's only 92 pages, so should be able to get through that in one night.
Yeah, just real quick. You end up in the bathroom for a long one, and you bring the iPad in and read them all. So
there's 92 pages of articles on there. So,
so there you go.
Definitely prolific.
Yeah. So Mike, we skipped the trivia question last week, thankfully. So I got everything right last week. But what are you going to stump us with this week?
All right, just give me a second. The trivia this week is somewhere. Here it is. There are 11 Spanish internationals who have won the Premier League medal or been champions of the EPL. Name them.
Oh my God.
11 Spanish internationals who have won Premier League medals.
I got one.
I got two. I got.
I think you guys will get a lot more than you think. It sounds daunting, but it's actually not that bad. There's one name actually I don't know, but
I got 4.
Rob might. Being Spanish is his football.
Hold on.
But most of them are well-known household names. So
I got 5. I got 5 so far.
All right, so I'm sure you're going to do well tonight, Joe.
And I always screw it up, but let me just ask real quick. Liam is the one that gets you the answer.
Yep, it is.
Damn, I got it right. See that I should be exempt from the question, but Liam usually answers these questions, and he usually shoots it to you in a private message, and you probably already have all 11, right?
I haven't looked yet, but let me check. No, I haven't got anything yet. I'm sure he couldn't have written down 11 yet, probably. He might know them all, but he's got to write them all out.
I was going to say. Also,
last names is fine, though.
Lucas put in the chat something that is our opening thoughts topic tonight. He's quick to point out that Inter is 3 from 3. So they've won their first 3 matches in the Serie A this year. And Inter, and they're 8 points ahead of Juve, who finally got on the board this week with a draw, compliments of Paulo Dybala penalty kick late in the match, and it just escapes me right now as to who they drew this week. And I'm looking at it quickly. Chievo, that's right. Chievo, who was actually in first place. They were in first. Yeah, they're in second now. They're tied for second. So the question of the night is, and it's a series that we've been going through, it is who will be the first manager sacked of the 2015-2016 season, and this is the Serie A edition. So since I cover the Serie A, I'm going to give it to Mike because I'll save my answer for last. So,
all right, I'm going to say that I don't know this very well.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard for me to come up with anything then, so I kind of just throwing a dart at a board here, and I'm going to say Empoli's manager, Marco Giampaolo.
Okay.
He's just joined the club this year after their other manager left to go to Napoli, I believe it was.
Maurizio Sarri, that's right.
Right. So that's going to be my pick. They're off to a bad start, but like I said, I don't know much about Serie A.
Currently 1 point as well, drawing Napoli this week 2-2, which is actually a pretty exciting game. A big goal by Lorenzo Insigne in that one of the goals of the week for sure. Rob, how about you with the Serie A edition? What do you think?
I'm going to pick a strange name from this one, and it's going to be Hellas Verona's Andrea Madolini.
Okay.
They haven't won a single game yet, becoming one of the few teams to have not won a single game. I believe 7 of them. And I just think that maybe he'll be the first one because of the amount of matches so far they haven't played.
Yep. 2 draws in their first 3 matches. They drew 1-1 with Roma and 2-2 with Torino. Sandwiched in by a loss 2-0 to Genoa on the road. So certainly going to be an option. I guess I'm going to go big or go home, I guess, in this one. I was looking at the bottom of the table, and I do like that Verona pick, the Hellas Verona. This is a team that finished mid-table last year, so certainly somebody to consider. But I'm going to, Empoli barely surviving relegation. Maurizio Sarri, got, I guess, promoted, for lack of a better term, to Napoli this year to take over that side. Carpi and Frosinone, 2 newly promoted sides. I don't think we have to really worry about them too much. Bologna is also newly promoted. So, the 3 teams that are brought up, all 3 starting out right where you'd expect them to be at the bottom. So I don't really want to pick any of those bottom 4. But I did pick 2 teams that I would go with. The first,
you're taking Allegri, aren't you?
Of course I'm taking Allegri first. You've got to go big at Juventus. It's go big or go home. And right now, they really haven't shown much. They've only scored 2 goals in their first 3 matches. And one of those goals is, again, a Paulo Dybala penalty kick to go ahead and save a point for them this weekend. So he's definitely an option. And he's got to be feeling a little bit of pressure. I know we're only 3 matches in. Going to be interesting to see what happens this week at the Etihad against Man City, and then when they come back home on the weekend, where they'll be facing Genoa, to see kind of what his status is. I guess tune in next week, and we'll kind of figure out if Allegri is going to make it all the way through. But he does have something to help him, and it's the fact that he did win 2 trophies last year, which is a nice little bow to tie in there. The other one I want to talk about is actually a guy that you mentioned, Mike, is Maurizio Sarri over at Napoli now. Napoli starting out 2 draws in their first 3 matches, drawing Sampdoria and then obviously drawing Empoli this past weekend. And they had to come back from a goal down twice. So they have to they have to perform a little better. They do have a star-studded lineup. They're in the Europa League coming up this week. If it's Napoli, it's tough to say who would replace him because De Laurentiis is obviously a guy with a lot of money and would certainly spend it for a big-name coach. I think, though, if we're talking about Juventus, I think it can only be Carlo Ancelotti that would have to come in. And Mike, I did see your message. I did see that Noel did post the answers there, but I didn't read them. I didn't get a chance to. So I'm not going to scroll up and look at those answers. But so Noel put them in the chat. Going back to my idea, though, I think it would be a guy like a guy like Allegri, and I do think it would be a guy like Ancelotti to replace him. Second place to replace him would certainly be Jurgen Klopp, but it's going to be if Juventus does decide to part ways with Allegri before the end of the season. It's going to be a big, big, big name. I mean, I don't think it'll be Guardiola or Mourinho, but I think certainly Ancelotti and Klopp would both be in the running for that. So, those are my thoughts on that particular situation. I think it might be Napoli more so, and if Napoli does fire their coach, if they do fire Sarri, which I think would be a little premature, I would expect Klopp to be an option there as well. Napoli's going to be a pretty big team. And so I think it could be that. I would have also thought, depending on what happened with Roma, if they got smashed by Juventus, I think Rudy Garcia would have been an option to get sacked as well. But Roma's a win 2 wins and a draw to start out the early season. I think right now Rudy Garcia is pretty safe. It's going to be interesting to see how he starts out in the Champions League to really figure out if they're going to look at him. But I think for the most part he's pretty safe, and I think if anybody, if Juventus continues on the way they're going, it's got to be Juventus, and I think it's got to be Allegri, and I think it's going to be a very big name to replace him. So
they better hurry, because I think Klopp's going to be in Liverpool before long.
That's the talk I heard today on TalkSport. Is they're looking possibly to and Liverpool's a team that would has the players that would favor Klopp in the way he plays. So.
Nice if he has those two teams after him, though, huh?
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Did you guys have any other thoughts on the Italian sides before I get our guest on here?
No,
I don't.
Nope.
Okay.
That sounds good. Let's. Did you mark them down, Joe?
I didn't, but we can always go back and listen.
All right.
So let's. I'm just going to make sure Miguel is ready to go here, and then we'll go ahead and add him in and get him going here. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm still waiting for him to finalize all the Skype stuff. So hopefully that'll be any second now, and then we'll go ahead and add him in and get going. So
I can add him in.
And yes, Liam, you were right.
Yeah. And Liam had them all?
He does.
Of course he does. So let me see here quickly. I'm just going to go ahead and, I'm going to see if I can go ahead and add him into our call as well. So, and actually, I do need him to accept the.
You want me to add him?
I don't know if it'll work for him to add to the entire group. You can try. But yeah, I'm just.
You want me to try?
Yeah, go ahead and give it a shot. And we'll see if he is able to join us here through that connection, because I'm not sure if he will. Oh, you know what? So don't worry about it. It's all set here. Let me go ahead and add him in here real quick. I can definitely add him into the call now.
Okay.
So joining us on Low Limit Football from ESPNFC is Miguel Delaney. Miguel, how are you tonight?
Good evening. Not too bad, thanks.
Great. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to have you on the show tonight and get to talk some EPL with you. My first question to you to open real quick is, now that the transfer window has closed, who, in your opinion, is the best player that was picked up in the EPL this season?
Quite hard to say, actually, to be honest. It's almost about kind of teams doing different business rather than kind of particular players. Because the one thing the Premier League hasn't done over the past few years is actually bring in star quality. I mean, I'm talking about genuine premium level star quality. They still can't really get the players that Barca, Real, and to a lesser extent Bayern go for. Like, even if you look at the signings that City made. Sterling already in the league. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne has been in the league, not been away from it too long. Even though he's been good in the Bundesliga, still relatively untested. You couldn't quite say he's going to be a sure thing in that sense, despite all his potential. I mean, probably the biggest player brought in is Pedro, but that's almost been obscured by the fact that Chelsea has had such a bad start to the season.
True. I thought you might have gone with two players that have caught my eye to open the season, and kind of on smaller clubs. That's Andre Ayew at Swansea, and today a gentleman who scored a brace for West Ham, which is Dimitri Payet.
Yeah. Well, that's about the sign of the. I mean, I did a piece on this for the Independent 2 weeks ago. I think it's the first sign of the greater money that the Premier League will have due to the new broadcasting deal. That you have these mid-table clubs that are able to afford a better calibre of player. I mean, if you see Crystal Palace can pay Young Kabay £100,000 sterling a week. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and it's the same sort of principle here. It's Swansea bringing in someone of the calibre of Ayew, and West Ham being able to afford someone like Payet. And there's a few players like that now that almost seem like, without wishing to disrespect these mid-table clubs, but they almost seem a little too good for the level of the clubs they're at. Right. And you would wait to think that they're going to be eventually picked up by better teams, except it's right across the division now.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. It's one of the tightest divisions in all of football, that's for sure. So I'm going to send you up to north to Toronto to my co-host Mike. I know he has some questions for you, so Mike, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, Miguel, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, Mike. Not too bad, thanks.
Good. Thanks for taking my questions. I guess Joe led me right into my first one. The transfer window's been closed for a couple of weeks. So looking back, what couple of teams do you think did the best, and which couple do you think did the worst in England?
I think Man City probably did the best, because I mean I suppose when it comes to a window, we can almost get blinded by prices and by names, when I suppose really I think you've got to look at it a little bit more forensically. It's about what teams wanted to do when they started the window and how they ended up when they finished. Like, is this team have they basically fixed all the problems that the team has? And in City's case, I think they've done more than that. They've basically plugged every single area, added quality, and also added a bit of diversity. Given De Bruyne is quite different to kind of close space technical players they've got. Same with Sterling, and they've lowered the age profile. I think Liverpool actually did good business and did it very early, except again that's been kind of tempered by their form. Crystal Palace did very good business, although maybe they need another striker. In terms of the worst, I'd say probably Tottenham Hotspur, although Pochettino did succeed in getting rid of a lot of the dead wood, which I know was a main objective of his. And Arsenal, despite everything, it is extremely odd that they only signed the goalkeeper, good as that goalkeeper is.
Hi, sorry. Okay, so do you think De Bruyne is going to have a lot better time around this second time in the Premier League for Man City than he had for Chelsea? Obviously, he didn't play much for Chelsea, but do you see him as a regular for Man City once he gets acclimatized?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's quite interesting. Just talking to people who know De Bruyne, they were slightly surprised to move because I think actually that he might have been better off staying in the Bundesliga because he's more suited to the style of football in the Bundesliga, kind of direct and fast, whereas City play this kind of more technical, almost ticky-taka game. Although at the same time, he at least offers them maybe a little bit of diversity in that from that perspective, that he will give them something different. So really, he should be an upgrade on Jesus Navas while playing more. I'd expect him to make an impact.
Okay, not a lot of people know this, Miguel, but I'm a Man City fan, so I wanted to ask you about Group D. I know that you've, in an article, you've picked Man City to top the group. I'm just wondering, why do you feel Sevilla will top Juventus?
Well, I think maybe because of the few signs we've seen from Juventus's early season, I suppose, that even though they're still one of Europe's premium teams, I think they basically have to change their entire midfield. There's huge onus now on Pogba, and I think that could take a little bit of time to settle. And okay, well, despite that they've only got 1 point in 3 games in Serie A, but there have been a few signs that it might be starting to come together. I think it maybe take a little longer in Europe, and I think they just could be caught a little off guard there. I expect City to beat them tomorrow night.
Oh, from your lips to God's ears on that one. Even without Kuhn, you still think they can beat them tomorrow?
Yeah, I do have to say, yeah.
Okay, I know in another article you had written about Man City, you said that one of their problems after they've had a successful season is getting motivated or staying motivated in the next season. And I'm just wondering, they're off to a great start this year. And I know it's still early, but do you see a bit of a different signs in their mental makeup this year?
Well, I think definitely they almost have this kind of fighting spirit, this rage about them and anger that they didn't have last season. I think it was quite promising the way they won the game on Saturday in particular, because that was quite an awkward challenge. Not everything going their way, but kind of they forced to win. I think that's definitely a sign of it. But at the same time, there were periods last season where they showed similar form. And last season is generally considered to be quite a poor and underwhelming season for them. So my still slight concern about them, I think they still have to prove everyone wrong in this sense. They have to recover from a bit of a blip. And I think then we'll see the real mettle of the City. Like everyone's talking how they'll run away with the title. And while they're in a very, very strong position, I think it's we can't really start to say anything for certain until they do recover from any bad period. And I think they will have a tricky period. I can't see them quite staying as strong at the top as Chelsea did last season, despite how far clear they are now.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's far too early to be predicting any runaways. That they're only 1 or 2 losses from everybody being right back with them. So yeah, it's way too early to be predicting that. Another article that I had read that you had written was on the youth academies, and it was mainly focused on the lack of youth being developed by many of the Premier League teams. Maybe not being developed, but is the wrong way to put it, but that aren't getting into the senior squad.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of teams like Southampton, I think it was Aston Villa, and maybe even Tottenham, that have gotten some players into the senior squad. But with the owners so trigger-happy, the managers aren't really given the time these days. What do you think can be done to reverse this trend?
Well, I think it kind of comes down to basically individual clubs' philosophies. I mean, I think it's quite strange that Swansea haven't brought through more players, given they have such a set philosophy, given it's such a stable club. You actually expect more to come through. I mean, there's also the fact that really, because their style of play is so defined, that you'd imagine this is all coming through the coaching, through the youth level, yet no one's made the step up. I think that's the sort of thing that could change. That could be just a generational issue, that even though they're producing players, they're not necessarily producing players of the necessary Premier League quality. I mean, this isn't an exact science, although I suppose, as you see with managers like Van Gaal and with Manchester United in general, that you do have to have a certain willingness to initially throw a youngster in, which some clubs haven't done. I mean, Swansea have only given 3 debuts in the past 5 years, which struck me as odd. But I think it's basically there's multiple factors involved. But ultimately, I think you may be right. Clubs shouldn't have such a trigger-happy attitude, but it's quite weird that the clubs that are least trigger-happy, like Swansea, like Southampton, Southampton obviously have a great youth record, but yeah, like Swansea, like to an extent West Brom, haven't brought. So Bournemouth are another one, and they couldn't be considered trigger-happy, but they haven't brought players through.
One other thing I read in that article that you'd written on this topic that I found interesting was that you said that Manchester United youth players are training at the Manchester City Academy. Did I read that right?
No, it's the children of the sons of some Manchester United players. So I think it was Darren Fletcher, Van Persie, and I can't remember the other one. But they're sending their kids to the Manchester City Academy rather than Manchester United's.
And is that a reflection on the improvement in the Manchester City's academy, or?
Well, every talk to Manchester now says City are streets ahead, or they're beginning to get to the point where they're streets ahead, that they're putting all the infrastructure in place, and the United got a little bit complacent about it.
Okay, well, I found that interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're okay. I think it's just there's also been a bit of a complacency about United. They expect their name to carry them a certain amount, when City are basically investing much more into their youth setup now. They pay coaches better. They have more coaches. I think there's a better environment for young players to work in, given the new complex. It's also right beside the stadium. City have built a huge complex in Manchester there, whereas United's it's Carrington it's far outside Manchester City Centre. The youth pitches are slightly isolated or slightly away from the first team pitches, so there isn't the same sense of unity, which is quite odd given the history of the club.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. Before I hand you over to my co-host Rob, I just wanted to ask you about how do you think the English clubs are going to do in the group stage of the Champions League?
I expect them all to qualify, to be honest. I think we'll have it. I know that hasn't happened for the last few years, but yeah, I expect them all to go through.
Yeah, so do I. Thanks a lot, Miguel, and I'll hand you over to Rob. He's got a few questions for you. Thanks again.
Hey, Miguel, it's nice to have you on the show.
Cheers, no problem.
I just wanted to get your question from the chat that we have at the moment, and it's a question about Branislav Ivanovic. What's your opinion on why do you think he still plays? And I also want to talk about regarding Ruben Loftus-Cheek and why he doesn't play. Is this something that Jose Mourinho have against youth players or something?
Well, I suppose the one thing with Ivanovic is, first of all, Mourinho evidently has a huge trust in him, given him he's made him almost one of the co-captains of the team. But also, I think you've got to say, as bad as Ivanovic has been this season, it's not isolated. I think he's one of about 7 Chelsea players that are just well off their best. So I think that hints to the fact that it could be a squad issue rather than anything to do with individual players. We have heard all these stories. Mourinho's talking about himself, how they've altered their pre-season, and that has meant that they're not up to the physical conditioning. And I think we're seeing that in individual performances, like with Ivanovic, and like Matic is another. Even Hazard's below his best. In fact, the only one that's looked actually close to is the only 2 players that really looked to at their best, and that's Diego Costa and Cesar Azpilicueta. As regards Ruben Loftus-Cheek, well, again, this comes back to what I was just discussing there with Joe. Mourinho's he's never put too much trust in young players, no matter how good. The only young in his 12-year career, from the last 12 years where stats were available, he's managed for about 14 years. From 12 years that stats are available, he's only given one young player regular football, and that was David Santon at Inter Milan.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. talking about Chelsea even further, obviously they had a 3-1 loss against Everton over the weekend and have not had the best start in the weekend in the Premier League so far, staying in the near the relegation zone at the moment. Simple as this, really, can they turn this around? And in a situation that I have in my mind, do you think that maybe if Chelsea do not get 3 points over the week at Europe in the Champions League and not beat Arsenal on the weekend, will the pressure start mounting of possibly Mourinho being sacked by Roman?
The pressure's already mounted, I suppose. Sacked. We've had absolutely no indication that's going to be the case just yet, although with Chelsea you never know, given the history. In general, there is the fact that Abramovich wants to avoid the problems of the past few years in which he's going to every crisis is going to change. He wants to do stability. Obviously, you have to introduce that stability if you get rid of a manager at the first side of trouble, particularly a manager like Mourinho. I mean, for all his controversies, he's one of the most successful of all time. I think he does. He himself. It's not so much to alleviate pressure. It's when he gets back into confidence among the players. It's quite a complex situation. From what I've heard, a lot of players, or some of the players, anyway, already think the league might be beyond them. So, I mean, that someone could be on turning the situation around. It's about getting back into the kind of Champions League hunt for them now. So, yeah, they do need a win to alleviate that pressure anyway, because they give themselves an awful lot of work to do if they drop points again this weekend, especially given it's a Champions League rival.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen to them, but I think they could turn it around. There's no doubt about it. And I want to talk about your native Ireland at the moment. Obviously, they're in European qualification with a group with Poland, Scotland, Germany, Georgia, and Gibraltar. They're currently third in the standings with 2 points behind Poland for second and 4 points behind Germany. Having their next few matches against Germany in Dublin next month, and then ending it off against Poland in Warsaw. Can they indeed go to the European Championships through automatic qualification, even possibly winning the group, or will they have to be during the playoff situation?
Well, Ireland are only one of my two countries, Spain as well, dual nationality. But I can't see it qualifying automatically, and certainly not winning the group. There's absolutely no chance of that. Not with Germany there, and even beyond Germany, the problem with Ireland is basically that since 2001. The country, the national team, has only won one game against a team that are in the top 30 of the world, or a team that can be considered a rival in that sense. Generally, we're good at getting draws against such teams, but we're not good at actually beating them. So to get into the qualification places, the automatic qualification places, we actually have to beat one of these teams. We have to beat Germany or Poland. So I can't see that happening. I think we can still get third and then maybe qualify if we draw someone like Estonia or Albania in the playoffs, but I'd be very surprised if we got an automatic qualification. I don't think there's enough match winners in the squad.
Yeah, of course, but it's always been nice to see Ireland play, and I've always been fond of Robbie Keane growing up, so it would be definitely interesting to see him.
Robbie Keane doesn't look like I think he's past his best for Ireland at this point, sadly.
Yeah, he's still doing well in MLS, that's for sure.
Well, without meaning to demean MLS, it's not quite the same level. Like he just looked when he played against Georgia last week. He just looks off the pace in international football. He's and it's quite even. We still badly depend on him for goals, which is quite a worry that if he doesn't have the old sharpness that he used to, it's a lot more difficult to see where our goals are going to come from.
Yeah, of course. And one of our listeners in the chat named Liam, he's a fellow Irishman as well, is definitely being happy at the moment for your answer. So, and just my last question. We've always had a debate between various guests that we've had on the show regarding the who's the third best player in the world behind Messi and Ronaldo. Simple as this: who do you think is a better player, Neymar or Eden Hazard?
To be honest, actually, I go when fully fit Sergio Aguero probably above both of them, and I think I'd maybe go Luis Suarez ahead. It's quite. I mean, I think to be honest, Hazard still has a little bit to go. He's got the talent, but he still hasn't had the application yet of Neymar, Suarez, and Aguero. I think that those three, I find it very difficult to separate, and you're almost coming down to individual spells of form. Sometimes Neymar looks like he's almost as unplayable as Messi or Ronaldo, but he's still not really at that level, and he still has dips that they wouldn't. It's still a little bit more erratic than they are. Whereas Aguero, I think he can be as devastating as both of those, but he's just he's had his injury worries, and he's more of a finisher rather than that kind of creative player. Even though his all round game is good, Suarez when he's at his best can be, unplayable. So it is very hard to separate. But I wouldn't have Hazard at the level of Neymar, Aguero, or Suarez yet.
Miguel, I'm just going to interrupt here and say, out of all the times that this question has been asked, I finally got the answer I wanted. Sergio Aguero.
I'm a huge fan of him.
He's so great, but he is so underrated still in my mind.
Well, yeah, part of the problem there is probably injuries, to be honest. The fact that he hasn't been able to stay fully fit for an extended period of time. I mean, he's only 2 seasons in the last 5. I might be wrong with these stats, but I'm almost sure I'm right that he's only had 2 seasons in the last 5 where he's played more than 30 league games.
Right, and then he gets that freak injury at the weekend. So,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Just one more last question that came from chat. Do you think, considering the fine performance that Riyad Mahrez is having for Leicester City, do you think someone will buy him in the winter?
Well, I suppose the other side of that, as we were mentioned earlier with the power of the mid-table sides, is that they can actually now resist big buys or attempts at big buys a little more readily. I suppose it's one of these cases of wait and see. He's clearly an excellent talent. Even remember being impressed with him when I saw him against Arsenal for Leicester last season. Again, they lost 2-1. I think maybe we'll see. Can he generate the necessary consistency first to be bought by maybe one of the bigger sides? But yeah, I mean, the people are watching him, and the talent is certainly there again.
Yeah, he's been a spectacular player from what I've seen, that's for sure. Miguel, I really want to thank you for coming on the show, and enjoy the Chelsea match.
No problem. Cheers, yeah, thank you.
Yep. That's over to Joe.
Yep. Miguel, I do have one last question. I want to expand on one of Mike's questions. He had asked you if you thought all 4 English teams would make it out of the Champions League group stages, and you agreed with him, and I agree with you. But, gun to your head, if you had to pick one team that might possibly not make it out of their group, what team would you pick and why?
To be honest, I don't think any of them will. Oh, no, I just can't see it.
I certainly agree with you. I'm just looking at the groups. Group B, United has Eindhoven, Moscow, and Wolfsburg. Obviously, Group D is many people consider the group of death with Juventus, Sevilla, and Mönchengladbach for City. We have Arsenal with Bayern Munich, Olympiacos, and Dinamo Zagreb, and Chelsea with Porto, Dinamo Kiev, and Maccabi Tel Aviv, which is probably the weakest of the 4 groups that have an English side. In my opinion, but if there was one group, just for me, I don't even want to say it's City, but I could see where City wouldn't, given the talent Juventus has there and Sevilla. Mönchengladbach has gotten off to an awful start in the Bundesliga, but certainly a decent side there. And Arsenal, of course, you've got Bayern Munich, so Arsenal's really hoping for second place there. So, they'd have to get by Olympiacos and Zagreb, which they should, but that trip to Greece isn't always the easiest of trips. So, giving that, I mean, would you pick one that, if you had to pick one, which one do you think you would pick?
I genuinely just can't see. I think City, Juventus have a few too many problems now. I think City are stronger than Sevilla. I also think they've learned from the past few seasons of the Champions League. With that win in Roma last year, huge for their development in Europe. They were quite unlucky to get Barca, but that's another issue altogether. I think City will go through. Manchester United, I think the group is too easy. I think Van Gaal's football is too well suited to Europe. Chelsea, despite their problems, it's a hugely forgiving group, and also they've got that European experience as well.
Yeah.
And then Arsenal, I mean, that's one of those groups the Champions League throws up every season. It's these incredibly dull groups that how it's going to finish. Weeks in advance. So genuinely, I can't really see it happening, to be honest.
And I certainly agree with you on the Group F group because it's drawn up on my screen right now as Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Olympiacos, and Dinamo Zagreb, and I think that is exactly how that group is going to
I agree myself, to be honest.
We'll just move along from there. So, Miguel, thank you again for joining us tonight and giving us your time. Really, really appreciated the chat, and we'll hope to have you back again very, very soon.
No problem, lads. Cheers. Best of luck.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you, Miguel. Cheers.
And that was Miguel Delaney from ESPNFC. Fantastic talk with him on all things, EPL and English sides. just a wonderful discussion to have. Mike, you finally got your Sergio Aguero answer out of somebody unsolicited, which was fantastic. And in fact,
finally we had an intelligent guest on.
When Rob asked the question, I'm like, oh boy, Rob's asking it. But at the same time, I was like, somebody's got to say Aguero here one of these days. And boom, he comes right out and says Aguero. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm surprised it took you that long, Mike.
I was chomping at the bit to get on, but I wanted to let him finish his thought. So
no, he was wonderful. Again, he would have been a wonderful addition to last week's show, that's for sure. But glad we got him, separate of it, and glad we got him where we could actually spend more than a couple of minutes with him because he's absolutely fantastic. So let's get into our league coverage, gentlemen. Let's head over to La Liga to Rob because now that obviously the leagues are back in play, so we'll hit the quick scores. And one thing I want to mention to the listeners is we didn't necessarily have previewed matches of the week from last week because of the show structure that we had last week. So what we did was we picked matches that were probably the most interesting to chat a minute or two about on. So Rob, if I'm going to turn it over to you for La Liga.
All right, let me just load it up real quick. In the league, we had on Friday we had Levante drawing 1-1 to Sevilla. On Saturday, we had Espanyol losing 6-0 to Real Madrid, 5 goals from Cristiano Ronaldo. The aforementioned player that hasn't scored in the last 2 match days. Valencia 1-0 over Sporting Gijón. Real Betis 1 over Real Sociedad. In the match of the week, we had Barcelona taking on Atletico Madrid. Lionel Messi was not started for this match. He came on 60 minutes after, and because of his the birth of his second child. But he did make the difference nevertheless after Fernando Torres scored early in the second half. Neymar scored a free kick, and then Messi came in and scored the game winner. On Sunday, we had Villarreal 3-1 over Granada, Bilbao 3-1 over Getafe, 3-3 Celta Vigo and Las Palmas, and the last match, again, Eibar, 0-0 over Malaga, still unbeaten, Eibar. As the table stands, we have Barcelona in first with 9 points, having not drawn or lost a single game. Real Madrid in second with 7. Celta Vigo in third with 7. Villarreal in fourth with 7 points. Eibar in fifth with 7. And Atletico Madrid with 6 points. Top goal scorer is Cristiano Ronaldo with his 5 goals. Then Nolito with 3. Bakambu of Villarreal with 3, Gareth Bale with 2, and Karim Benzema with 2.
Perfect. So taking it over to Ligue 1 from last week, the match of the week that we will discuss quickly in a moment, which is a Friday selection, Paris Saint-Germain drawing Bordeaux 2-2 at the Parc des Princes. On Saturday, Lyon drawing 0-0 against Lille, Lorient 3-1 at home over Angers, Saint-Etienne on the road 2-1 over Montpellier, Guingamp 1-0 over Nice. Toulouse and Reims played to a 2-2 draw. Caen 3-1 over Troyes. Ajaccio losing at home to Monaco 1-0. 9-man Nantes losing at home to Rennes 2-0. And Sunday's final match was Marseille 4-1 over Bastia. So going through the tables quickly, and this is after 5 matches. PSG leading the way, 13 points. Rennes in second on 12. Reims and Saint-Etienne on 10 points each. And Caen rounding out the top 5 on 9 points. Bottom of the table, Ajaccio and Montpellier on 1 point each, currently in the relegation zones. Troyes, Lorient, Toulouse, and Nice going up from the bottom are your bottom 6 teams. Top goal scorers at the moment in Ligue 1. We have Nabil Fekir on Lyon on 4 goals, who is also out, I believe, with an ACL injury over the international break. Edison Cavani, 4 goals as well. Braithwaite for Toulouse on 3 with Alessandrini, Batshuayi, Sio, and Karzai for Bordeaux, all on 3 goals each. So going back to that PSG match quickly, we'd spent the last couple of weeks asking ourselves, is it even possible that PSG will lose a match this particular season? And of course it's going to be tough to do in any league, and here was a little bit of a blemish. Drawing 2-2 with Bordeaux at home. Bordeaux actually gave them quite the fight. Edison Cavani opening the scoring in the 27th minute, with Henri Saviet in the 30th minute drawing even. Then Cavani again in the 34th, and then we take it all the way to the 79th minute where Kazri scored the second goal for Bordeaux to draw level after a 77-minute Henri Saviet red card, so down 10 men. No Ibrahimovic sighting in this particular match, but I did just see a tweet that he will be available for PSG, him and Pastore, according to Jonathan Johnson. Javier Pastore and Zlatan Ibrahimovic will both be available for PSG against Malmo tomorrow. So that is our previewed match of the week in Ligue 1. So, Mike, I'm going to send it over to you if you wouldn't mind giving us the rundown in the Premier League.
All right. So on Saturday morning, Everton beat Chelsea 3-1. Stephen Naismith with a perfect hat trick. Saturday afternoon's games were Arsenal 2, Stoke 0, Walcott and Giroud for Arsenal. And Manchester City beat Crystal Palace on Iheanacho, is that how you say it? I think that's how you say it. Iheanacho's first goal for Manchester City in the 90th minute, keeping them top of the table. Norwich 3, Bournemouth 1, Jerome, Houlihan, and Jarvis for Norwich, and Cook for Bournemouth. Watford beat Swansea 1-0. Ighalo for Watford. And West Brom and Southampton drew 0-0 in a rather tame affair. Manchester United 3, Liverpool 1. Blind, Herrera, and Martial with his first goal for Manchester United. Christian Benteke with a beautiful goal. Did you guys see that bicycle kick?
I did see that one. Fantastic.
With the goal for Liverpool, 3-1. It was a nice goal for sure. Joe, did you see it, Rob?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, nice goal. Tottenham 1, Sunderland 0. Mason scores for Tottenham. Leicester beats Aston Villa 3-2. Vardy and Dyer for Leicester. Grealish and Gill for Aston Villa. And in today's afternoon or evening game, West Ham beat Newcastle 2-0. Dimitri Payet again with 2 goals this time for West Ham. 2-0. Who took Newcastle's to be the first coach fired? I think it was Rob.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yep.
You could be getting close to that one, Rob.
Yeah.
I guess our match of the week, which I wasn't really aware that we were doing this week, was Manchester and Liverpool, Joe, 3-1?
Yeah. And again, it wasn't necessarily match of the week, just the match that we wanted to talk about for the most part.
Okay, so Liverpool had 8 shots, 4 on target. Manchester United had 9, 3 on target. There was 11 fouls for Liverpool, 6 for Manchester United, resulting in 1 card for United to Matteo Darmian, and 2 cards for Liverpool, Klein and Milner. Possession was 56-44, and it was Martial, Herrera, Blind for United, like I said, and Benteke with probably the goal of the week and probably a candidate for goal of the year for Liverpool.
Absolutely.
And a quick look at the Premier League standings then. Sees Manchester City top of the table with a perfect record, 5-0 with no goals against, 15 points, followed by Leicester in second with 11, Manchester United in third with 10, and rounding out the European places is Arsenal, also in fourth with 10, and West Ham United with 9. In the relegation zone in 20th, it's Newcastle on 2 points, and also with them on 2 points is Sunderland, Stoke, and Chelsea is on 4 points just outside of the relegation zone. I had to add that.
Well, there was a small piece of me that was actually hoping that Newcastle would win today, because if that would have happened, then Chelsea would have actually been in the relegation position.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, I guess there was a big piece of me hoping that, and I didn't realize it.
And I mean, we all know in the end that Chelsea's going to get out of this. They're not going to get relegated.
Yeah, but we all know I would have posted that table on Twitter.
Oh, no doubt about it. So.
And that might even be somehow photoshopped in week 34.
Exactly.
Just to make it, they are in a relegation battle right at the end. Okay, and the Premier League scores, I'll just give the top scorers. There's 3 of them on 4 goals. It's Mahrez, Gomes, and Callum Wilson of Bournemouth, all on 4 goals. Joe, that's the Premier League.
All right, Rob, your turn, the Bundesliga.
Yep, in the Bundesliga we had Hamburg 3-0 over Borussia Mönchengladbach, who are currently in the relegation zone, despite playing in European football. On Saturday, we had Bayern Munich 2-1 over Augsburg. Darmstadt 1-0 over Bayern Leverkusen. Borussia Dortmund 4-2 over Hannover 96. Hertha Berlin 2-1 over Stuttgart. Ingolstadt 0-0 over Wolfsburg. Eintracht Frankfurt 6-2 over Cologne. 8 goals in that match. On Sunday, we had Werder Bremen 3-1 over Hoffenheim. Schalke 2-1 over Mainz. As the table stands, it's Borussia Dortmund still in first place. In second tied is Bayern Munich with 12. In third, Wolfsburg with 8. In fourth, Eintracht Frankfurt with 7. In fifth, Schalke with 7. And in sixth, Werder Bremen with 7. Top goal scorers at the moment, Thomas Muller with 6 goals. Second, Emre Aubameyang with 5. Castellanos with 4. Lewandowski with 3. And Lasoggas of Hamburg with 3 as well.
All right, so we're going to head it over to Serie A and go through the scores from this past week. And on Saturday, we had Fiorentina 1-0 over Genoa, Roma 2-0 over Frosinone, Juventus and Chievo played to a 1-1 draw, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Verona and Torino played to a 2-2 draw. Empoli-Napoli played to a 2-2 draw. Palermo-Carpi 2-2 draw. Sassuolo-Atalanta 2-2 draw. There's a theme here. Lazio 2-0 over Udinese on 2 goals by Alessandro Matri. And on the Derby della Madonnina, which was played on Sunday and our featured match of the week, Internazionale 1-0 over AC Milan on a dazzling goal, to say the least, by Freddy Guarin in the 58th minute. Shots on this one were 19-16 in favor of AC Milan, and the possession number was also in favor of AC Milan at 51-48. So pretty evenly played match, but a little bit of a mistake led to the Freddy Guarin goal. Not to be outdone, Carlos Bacca and Luis Adriano really played well up top, only to be outdone by the lousy play of Kitsuke Honda. Many people, this was done on Bein Sport by Matteo Bonetti and Andres Cordero, and they were both saying how they were surprised that Balotelli was brought in for Bacca instead of Kitsuke Honda. They wanted to see, the Balotelli-Adriano-Bacca matchup up top to see if they could actually create some magic, but it wasn't meant to be. So, Inter Milan defeating AC Milan in the Milan derby 1-0 on that one. So, on the table, we'll go to the top 5. Inter leading the way currently, perfect on the season. 3 games, 3 wins, 9 points. I've only given up 1 goal so far this season. Chievo in second with Sampdoria, Torino, Roma, Sassuolo, and Palermo all on 7 points. That is your top 7. Your bottom of the table, we have Frosinone, Bologna on 0 points. Carpi, Empoli, and Juventus on 1 point each. And then rounding out the bottom of the table, Verona and Napoli on 2 points each. So we'll have a match of the week coming up in a few minutes. So, Mike, I'm going to have you bring it back over to the United States and give us the lowdown on MLS.
All right. The MLS week started as it usually does on Wednesday. There was 2 games. Vancouver Whitecaps beat Colorado 2-0. And the other game on Wednesday was one of those games like you just mentioned, Joe, Portland 0, Sporting Kansas City 0. On Saturday, it was the New York Red Bulls moving to top of the MLS Eastern Conference with a 3-2 win over the Chicago Fire. Columbus, well improved of late. Kai Kamara getting 2 goals in a 2-1 win over Philadelphia Union Sapong for Philadelphia. It was FC Dallas 2, New York City FC 1. Is this the game that Villa got hurt?
No. Villa got hurt a few years ago. And,
okay.
Just kind of talking
goals from Dallas, Akindele, and Michelle. And for New York City FC, it was Mullins. Houston Dynamo pretty much out of the playoffs with a 3-1 loss to Real Salt Lake. Morelli, Sandoval, and Martinez for Real Salt Lake. Davis with the lone goal for Houston. Colorado 1, DC United 1. It was Burling for Colorado, Birnbaum for DC United. Our game of the week, I believe, Joe, I'm going to blame this one on Joe. It was the LA Galaxy 0, Montreal Impact 0. We'll look back at that one in a second. San Jose and Seattle drew 1-1. Toronto FC, in a disappointing loss to the New England Revolution 3-1. It was Finley for Toronto. Fagundes, Rowe, and do you guys know who got the other one for New England?
I don't, but I'm efforting it right now.
All right, because it's not here. And I'll just go on then. Orlando City beat Sporting Kansas City 3-1. Winter with 2, Roches for Orlando, the other one, and Christian Nemeth, for Sporting Kansas City, 3-1.
I have the third goal for you.
All right.
Damian Perkis.
Oh, own goal. That's why. That's right.
That's right.
Nice goal. Yeah, they had 2 shots on net, New England, and 3 goals.
Yep, there you go. That's how it works.
Yeah. Our game of the week was LA Galaxy 0-0 with the Montreal Impact. The Galaxy had 11 shots, 4 on target. Montreal had 15 shots, 5 on target. 7 fouls for the Galaxy, 11 for Montreal, who had 2 yellow cards to Rio Coker and Andreas Romero. Possession in this one was 60% for the Galaxy, 59% for the Galaxy, 41% for the Montreal Impact, and it was a thrilling 0-0 draw. A quick look at the table as we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now in the MLS. This is actually when the games start getting really good, and we had a few good ones this weekend. In first place now in the East is the New York Red Bulls on 45 points. They're ahead of the Galaxy, who are the DC United, who's also on 45 points, but has played more games. Columbus Crew has moved up to third place on 44 points, and it's the Revolution in fourth place with 43 points. Toronto FC, losers of, I think, 3 in a row now, on 37 points in 15th place, and the last playoff spot in the East right now goes to the Montreal Impact on 32 points, and they have that by less games played over Orlando. In the West, it's Vancouver on 48 points, topping the table. FC Dallas in second on 47, with the Galaxy also on 47. Seattle FC, Sounders FC on 42 points, and Kansas City and Portland have the last 2 playoff spots, both on 41 points, with San Jose just below them. And the top scorer in the MLS is Kai Kamara, who added 2 more goals this weekend and has now jumped 3 ahead of Sebastian Giovinco. And David Villa is in third with 16 points. And I think that's it for MLS, Joe.
Okay. I also heard a stat this weekend that Giovinco is the only player to be in double digits for both goals and assists so far this season.
And also, he's not too far away from the all-time shot taking in one season. Most shots taken in one season.
Yep. I did hear that one as well. I just wanted to defend my LA Galaxy choice for match of the week. The reason I did choose that match is because it was Didier Drogba going to LA to play that match, and I figured that was, kind of a star-studded lineup.
And did he play? Because I never seen the game.
I think he did. I didn't get a chance to see the game either because I think it was a late match on a Saturday night. I'm just efforting the box score right now to see if.
It was a late. No, it was 10 o'clock our time.
I think he did play. Yes, he did.
I see.
He actually started and played the full 90.
Okay.
So rated 6.8 by WhoScored.com on that one. So the one thing that you brought up was the David Villa thing that we were talking about. That resulted from Rob and I talking before the show, which will bring up a match that was played this weekend. It was the Super Clasico down in Argentina between River Plate and Boca Juniors. Rob, correct me. Monumental, right, is where they played that?
Yep, Monumental.
Yeah. 1-0 victory for Boca Juniors. I forget who the scorer was. Was it
Nicolas Lodero?
Lodero, that's right. On a follow-up shot from Carlos Tevez, by the way. But the reason it prompted our conversation was because Fernando Gago tore his ACL in the match, a non-contact injury for Gago in that one. So we kind of watched the replay of it, and he was just anonymously running, and next thing you know, he goes down like a sniper shot him and tore his ACL, and he's out for, I'd imagine, 6 to 9 months.
6 to 8 months.
Oh, 6 to 8. And then that brought up the talk of rushing him back in time for the Copa America next year. Which we were questioning if that would actually happen. Then we talked about rushing players back, and it led to Radamel Falcao. And then we looked at his injury, and then he said Robbie said you're always curious about David Villa's injury. So then we went back and watched that, and that's when you jumped in, Mike. So 60.
And did you see that Marcus Stroman pitched against the Yankees this weekend, Joe?
I did see that. And
he looks pretty good.
And that was a 6-month recovery if you think about it.
A little less. It was 5 because it was at the end of March.
Yeah,
and he's already been back for 3 weeks. This is just his first start back with the majors, but he had been in the minors.
So again, you know my thoughts on rushing players back, especially from ACL reconstruction. Having been through that, I kind of know what's involved there. So,
Right.
but that's going to do it for our league coverage for the evening, gentlemen. Let's take 2 minutes and talk about the Champions League coming up this week. We've got a few games coming up here. Over the next couple of days. I'm actually just looking for the particular matchups for the week. If you guys give me a moment, I can effort that. Obviously, the tasty match of the week is going to be the Man City Juventus match, but there have been a couple of other matchups, guys, that we wanted to talk about. Anything that you noticed on the match listings that you might have seen before I call them up?
No, they all look interesting. If you want to go over each one.
Yeah, let's do that. First of all, we've also talked at length about Zlatan Ibrahimovic going back to Malmo. Where's the club where he started to play his old club with PSG. So that's one of the intriguing storylines from this week that we're going to see. Obviously, the fact that he and Javier Pastore are going to be back in it for PSG, I think is
You know what it proves to me? That the draw is rigged.
We talked about that based on the Man United draw. Do you remember that? We had that discussion recently.
Yep.
So,
He tweets, it's going to be good. Hope I can go back to Malmo next day. Malmo, Paris Saint-Germain. Same.
That was just irony in itself.
Yeah, it's fixed.
So, obviously, the first match that comes up on my screen is the Paris Saint-Germain-Malmo match in Group A. We also have tomorrow, and these matches are all tomorrow, Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk at the Bernabeu tomorrow. And these are all pretty much 2:45 p.m. Eastern start times. We have Wolfsburg, CSKA Moscow. That, guys, is a pretty tricky matchup, and that's going to be played in Germany. It's going to be interesting to see if Wolfsburg can return back to that form they closed with last year, which they were so fantastic. PSV Eindhoven at home against Manchester United. Again, the luck of the rig draw. Galatasaray at home.
Return of Memphis Depay.
The return of Memphis Depay to PSV. That's correct. Galatasaray playing at home to Atletico Madrid. That's going to be a tough spot. We've always talked about. We had Ada Dizdar a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how difficult it is to go to Turkey to play a match. So this one's going to be played in Istanbul on Tuesday, tomorrow as well. Benfica at home to Astana, the Georgian, I believe Georgian or Kazakhstan, if I remember correctly. They opening their Champions League draw, and the match of the week for us, Man City Juventus at the Etihad on Tuesday as well. Sevilla Mönchengladbach going to be playing in Spain tomorrow. Yep. And then we move on to Wednesday. Leverkusen Bate in Germany. Roma Barcelona at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. We have Dinamo Zagreb Arsenal in Croatia coming up on Wednesday. Olympiacos Bayern Munich in Greece. We have Dinamo Kiev and Porto in the Ukraine coming up on Wednesday. Chelsea and Maccabi Tel Aviv at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday. Valencia, Zenit St. Petersburg also being played in Spain on Wednesday. And the last match to speak of is going to be Ghent in Belgium versus Lyon out of France. So, a couple of interesting little matchups. I think that Valencia-Zenit match is going to be pretty good to watch on Wednesday. Roma-Barcelona, of course, is going to be wonderful to see. And then, obviously, the Tuesday matchups. Man City, Juventus, Sevilla, Mönchengladbach, I think is going to be a pretty good one. Galatasaray, Atletico, I think is going to be a little more interesting than people think because of the difficulties of playing in Turkey. And I think, obviously, everyone wants to see Ibrahimovic play his old club. So, Rob, any intriguing matchups there that you want to just chat about real quick?
Like you said, it's going to be interesting, that Paris-Malmo match, the return of Zlatan Ibrahimovic playing against his old club, and Memphis Depay returning to PSV to play Manchester United PSV. That's going to be a good one as well. Right. So it's it should be some good European matches to bring back the Champions League. Should be good matches.
Mike, any other ones that catch your eye?
Just for like Miguel said, some of these are real bad games too. So
I agree.
And Zlatan Ibrahimovic going back to Malmo, doesn't mean anything to me, and it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah,
so
I would love. I
guess for some people that's an intriguing aspect of the game, but some of these teams I just Like, I've never heard of FCS Stan. I'm sorry.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If Zlatan scores against Malmo, will he celebrate?
Yes, because he's Zlatan.
Really?
Yep.
Mike?
Yeah, probably. He's a dink.
Let me ask you guys this.
I think so. I doubt it.
You know, with the Jekyll and Hyde way that they can play sometimes, could you possibly see Arsenal going to Croatia and losing to Zagreb?
Maybe.
Mike?
Maybe.
Not really.
No.
Maybe not getting 3 points.
Why, can you?
I don't know.
Of course they could lose. That's like always
Yeah,
going to
of
be a
course.
possibility.
Right.
But are you betting on it?
No, I wouldn't bet on it, but, you know, Rob brings up a point. The fact they come away with like a 1-1 draw, I certainly wouldn't put it past them. And Arsenal, you know...
Well, a draw, yeah, but you asked if they were going to lose.
Right, but Arsenal always finds a way to stink things up in the Champions League.
Yeah, they always find a way to get out of the group, too, though.
Yeah, they do. So, you know, but this could make it a battle to actually escape, you know, the group stages for sure. So, you know, it's tough to say. It's you know, there are some good matchups. I think, like you said, the obvious one is definitely Juventus City. I think a close second is the Barcelona-Roma match. That's going to be something intriguing.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, there are some good ones, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of stinkers, too.
Yeah, I agree. Just to go over quickly into the Europa League, guys, just real quick. We have matches coming up on Thursday. I'm only going to highlight the really, you know, the ones that I would have to point my finger at and say, you know, that's going to probably be a decent one. Ajax and Celtic playing, what is that? That is, I think that's 1 o'clock for them, 1 or 2 o'clock. But Ajax Celtic, that's going to be played in the Netherlands. Bordeaux Liverpool, that's going to be played in France. Now, this is a Bordeaux side that just took PSG at the Parc des Princes to a 2-2 draw. And this is actually going to be our, if I remember correctly, this is going to be our match of the week that we're going to talk about in a moment. So that certainly is going to be one to watch on Thursday. Scanning through, Dortmund should walk through Krasnodar pretty easily in Germany. Napoli should dispose of Club Brugge, I would say, pretty easily at home. Villarreal on the road to Rapid Wien in Vienna is going to be, you know, I would say I wouldn't worry about that one too much. I've got to say, there's not too much that is overly exciting in the Europa League. I would say maybe the other one that would be pretty exciting to watch is the Dnipro-Lazio match.
I think you just described the Europa League.
Yeah, it gets a little better because what happens is we have the elimination of a bunch of these lackluster teams. You have some of those third place teams that are going to be pretty good dropping down to the Europa League to play in this particular slot. And then this tournament...
So do you think Juventus will win the Europa League then?
No, I think City might. Nice try, sir. Sporting Lisbon versus Lokomotiv Moscow. That match is going to be in Portugal. Fiorentina Basel will be a decent one as well. Anderlecht Monaco will be a good one, and Tottenham, because Tottenham always finds a way to mess things up, versus Qarabag. That is going to be on Thursday as well. You know, other than that, again, like we said, this is probably a much better tournament once we get through this group stage. Atletico Bilbao, Augsburg as well is going to be one that's going to be a decent watch, I would say, going into the group stages here on Thursday. So we'll definitely talk about the different matches, especially next week when we come back and talk about the results that we were able to see this weekend. So, gentlemen, without further ado, I think we should probably hit up our week ahead, don't you think?
Yep.
All right, so Rob, I'm going to throw it over to you quickly with our match of the week in La Liga.
Yep, that's it. Our match of the week in La Liga is a simple one. It's going to be Eibar against Atletico Madrid, a side who just lost over the weekend for the first time this season in Atletico Madrid against a surprising package in Eibar. And it's I think it's third versus fourth, and it should be an interesting match, really, but it's Saturday at 2:30 p.m. If I'm going to go for a prediction, I am going to say, as much as I really want to see Eibar do this, and they could still pull a surprise, you never know, but I think Atletico gets this easily, 2-0.
2-0, okay. Let's take it over to Ligue 1 in France, and our match of the week is going to be Sunday at 3 p.m., and this is Marseille versus Lyon, played in Marseille. Currently, the two teams, and I'm just calling up my stats on the particular matchup here, as they're coming up. Currently, Lyon and Marseille, Lyon sitting in 6th, Marseille in 11th at the moment. after 5 matches. Head-to-head on this one, Marseille has won 1. They've drawn 3, and Lyon has won 2. So very, very evenly played over the last couple of years. Most recently, they played to a 0-0 draw back in March between these two teams, but that was a markedly different Marseille side comparatively. So I think Lyon is, even though Marseille has done, quite a bit of work to get off the bottom of the table here, they've won 2 of their last 3 matches. And most recently haven't been able to beat Bastia 4-1. I'm going to take Lyon in this one on the road with a 2-0 victory as well myself. So, I'm going to send it back to you, Rob, for the Bundesliga matchup.
Yep, in the Bundesliga, we have our match of the week is going to be Wolfsburg against Hertha Berlin. Wolfsburg currently in 3rd, and Hertha Berlin currently in 7th. Both separated by 1 point. A win for Hertha Berlin would project them all the way to 3rd. And it should be an interesting one to see how Wolfsburg can do well heading into the weekend after their midweek clash against CSKA Moscow. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to pick Wolfsburg 2-0.
2-0 in this one. All right, so back to me. Mike, I feel like we've left you out of this one a little bit, but we'll get to you. I just realized we have to change the rotation of these matches. For me, going back to the Serie A, we are going to talk about the 2 of the top teams in the Serie A at the moment because they are 1 and 2 in the league. No, that's not Juventus Roma. That is actually Inter and Chievo. Inter, like we had said earlier, perfect on the season on 9 points after 3 matches. Chievo, 2 wins and a draw. Most recently, they drew this weekend to Juventus 1-1. In the last 6 matchups between these two, Chievo has won 1. They've drawn 2, and Inter has won 3. Most recently, Inter and Chievo playing to a 0-0 draw back in May of last year. Boy, Inter really, really looks good at the moment. They play extremely attractive football. They did it this weekend in the derby. I'm going to end up taking Inter in this one, and I kind of like the scoreline. I'm taking Inter on the road to beat Chievo 2-0. So, Mike, I'm going to send it back over to you. I'm sorry, and that matchup is it's an early one, people. 6:30 a.m. Sunday morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. So, Mike, back to you now for the matchup of the week in the EPL and MLS.
All right, it's Chelsea and Arsenal on Saturday at 7:45. Chelsea definitely needing to win this game. I don't have my result yet because I'm going to let the simulator do it. I think, what's the last heads up here? I don't really have that stat. Joe, do you have their last game together?
If you give me one moment, I can...
here we go. Okay, so we've got last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Arsenal has won
1 match.
1, drawn looks like 2, and lost 3.
That's correct. Most recently, though, Arsenal winning. I'm looking at the competition here in the Community Shield. Arsenal beating Chelsea 1-0. Last league match was back in April 26th. They played to a 0-0 draw.
That's correct. And the other one last year was Chelsea 2-0 at home.
That's correct.
All right, so I'll have that result on Friday. And the MLS game of the week is going to be the New England Revolution taking on the Red Bull. That's this Wednesday at 7:30. And it's going to be, if New England wins that game, they will move into first place in the East. So it's DC United, New England, and Red Bulls really battling it out for first place and the Supporters Shield. And I'm going to take New England 2-1 in that one.
2-1 New England. So we're really going to make it a dogfight for that Supporters Shield moving forward.
New England has played, I believe, 13 games and only given up 9 goals at home this year, which is rather amazing in the MLS.
Yeah. So let's go to the Champions League match of the week. And like we've said all along, this one's a pretty easy one. Manchester City, Juventus, and this is at the Etihad on Tuesday at 2:45 p.m. Mike, were you going to wait for the simulator on this one, or we'll just let Rob go first and you and I won't talk about it?
No, I got the simulator result.
All right, Rob. Rob, why don't you go first, and why don't you tell me what you predict?
As much as I want to be a neutral, but I don't want to in this case, I think on paper Manchester City have the best team at the moment, even without Aguero. And it's going to be really difficult to see if Juventus can stop this side, but it's going to be tough for both sides nevertheless. It's going to be a close one. 3-2 Manchester City.
3-2 City. Okay. I'll go next because I'm a glutton. I think you're right, Rob. I do think that this Man City team is playing extremely well. They haven't given up a goal yet in league play. I think a lot of people are quick to jump on the fact that Juventus is obviously having a bad go of it so far this season in the domestic league. But I look back to a team like Borussia Dortmund last year who was having an awful time in the domestic league but was absolutely killing it in the Champions League last year. Not necessarily to say that that's going to happen here on Tuesday, but I don't think people should sell this Juventus side short just yet. And this is, remember, these are the runners-up to the Champions League last year, so they're not exactly a bad side. But I am going to take City to win this one tomorrow. I'm going to take City 2-1. So, Mike, if you'd like to give us your infinite wisdom on this one.
2-1 City.
2-1 City as well. Okay. So
Torre and Bone.
I hope we're all wrong. So
we won't be.
Well, usually I am wrong, so you guys are screwed. So let's move on to I was going to see if maybe the chat here. And of course, Victor Scamorza, Jim's in the house and says Juve, and like I said, from your mouth to God's ears, but he's saying that with the hope that the English side loses and that Chelsea comes out on top this week as well. So
he's still saying that with an Icelandic hangover.
That's true, and a well-deserved Icelandic hangover, that's for sure. In the Europa League, the match of the week, Bordeaux-Liverpool. This one is in France on Thursday at 2:45. Rob, do you want to go first on this one? We'll keep the order the same.
I think Liverpool should easily get through this. 2-0.
2-0 for Liverpool. Okay, let me just put that in here. Mike, how about you? Or do you want
1-1?
You want? Okay, you're going to go 1-1. I am actually going to.
That is not a simulator result.
Nope,
though.
that is a personal prediction.
But Man City Juventus one was simulated.
Yep. I'm actually going to take Bordeaux in this one. They showed a little bit of fire in that PSG match over the weekend, and Liverpool, just for me, is not showing much of anything. The question.
And they're leaking goals.
Yeah. The question is who's going to get fired first, McLaren or Rodgers? A real stinker could end up moving Rodgers ahead of McLaren in this race to get sacked, but I don't think it's going to be quite that bad. I think it's going to
Actually, I think right now, if you look, Brendan Rodgers is the favorite to be fired.
Is he?
Ahead of Steve McLaren right now without this result tomorrow. So
I'd have to go back and look. But I'm going to.
I was looking earlier. So.
I'm going to take Bordeaux 2-1 in this one. I think they're playing pretty well, and I think Liverpool just isn't. That's as simple of an analysis as I can make on this match.
So we got that one covered.
We do have it covered. We have the draw, we have Liverpool victory, and we have a Bordeaux victory. So no matter what, somebody's going to be right, which is kind of nice to a nice spot to be in. So
that's how we always have someone right.
Exactly. So without further ado, I know Noel put the answer in chat a little while ago, and I did not see the answer. But if you wouldn't mind repeating the trivia question, Mike.
Did you see the answer, Rob?
No, I didn't.
All right. There are 11 Spanish internationals who have won Premier League winners' medals. Name them.
Okay. So, 11 names, Spanish internationals, won the Premier League title. Let's get through the really, really easy ones. So, Mike, I'm going to give you Azpilicueta from Chelsea.
Hold on. Let me get these because... All right.
Okay. I'll give you Cesc Fabregas from Chelsea last year.
All right.
I'm going to give you from 2 years ago, David Silva.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'm going to let Rob give a couple of his easy ones, unless those were all of them.
No. Diego Costa? Does he count?
Yes, he does.
Even though he's Brazilian, we'll count him.
Okay. All right, I'm going to throw one out there. I'm pretty sure he was with the team at the time, and that is Jesus Navas.
That's correct.
Okay, so Man City. So that is 5. We got 6 to go.
You
Jose Antonio Reyes?
That's correct.
Okay.
Winner of Arsenal?
Yeah. There's.
You guys didn't see this answer, right?
No, we didn't. That's the thing.
You're doing so well. I'm just surprised.
There's 6.
Can I try one?
Go ahead.
Juan Mata?
Yeah, he's probably
No. Okay.
All right, first one wrong. I'm gonna go with No, it's wrong. I can't go with it.
Oh, Cesc Fabregas.
I already said him.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't hear it.
So 2 names that I had written down, but now that I'm thinking about it in hindsight, I know I'm pretty certain are wrong. Fernando Torres is wrong.
Right.
Yeah, he's incorrect. And Miguel
Is incorrect. Correct.
Miguel Arteta is also wrong.
He's never played for Spain.
It's also wrong.
Oh, what's his name? I forgot.
I thought Arteta did. Okay.
No, I forgot. No, he's never won it.
So far we've got 6. We've got David Silva, Jesus Navas, Cesc Fabregas, Cesar Azpilicueta, Diego Costa, and Reyes are 6. We got 5 missing. EPL title, Spanish international.
I guess you guys will pass if I grade it on.
No. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah, hold on. Let me think.
We're gonna keep going.
I got to think of somebody from Spain that might have played for United. And you already went Juan Mata, which we know is wrong, because he was at Chelsea when United won the title. David De Gea.
There you go.
Yep, David De Gea.
Yeah. Okay, so there's not. I mean, oh God, how did we miss that one? So that is 2, 4, 7. We've got 4 more, huh?
4 more.
How about I don't think he was on the team at the time. Victor Valdez.
No.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, I don't think he was on the team when they won.
Oh, I know one. Gerard Piqué.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who did Piqué play with? I can't remember.
Manchester United.
Okay. So that's 4. That's 7.
Negredo.
8. Negredo. Yeah.
Alvaro
9.
Negredo. Yeah.
Xavi.
2 left.
Xavi Garcia. Did he play for Spain?
Yeah, that's 10.
One more.
Someone I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My God, one more. Where's Liam? Damn it!
I don't know this one.
Del Horno.
Yeah.
I see Del Horno.
Yeah.
That's when I
won it for Chelsea. Yep, I remember that.
All right, Mike, give them to us all. Oh, there they are. Liam prints them out. Gerard Piqué with Manchester United. Asier Del Horno with Chelsea. David Silva with Man City. Jose Antonio Reyes with Arsenal. David De Gea with Manchester United. Alvaro Negredo with City. Javi Garcia with City. Jesus Navas with City. Diego Costa with Chelsea. Cesar Azpilicueta with Chelsea. And Cesc Fabregas with Chelsea. Thank you, Liam, in the chat. Where were you about 4 minutes ago? That's the part that sucks. But that is a great question. That was a really, really nice question, I've got to say.
I think the most is from City.
Yeah, I think you're right, dude.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 1, 2, 3.
4 from City.
4 from Chelsea.
Silva, Negredo, Garcia, Navas. Yeah, and you had 4 from Chelsea with Del Horno, Costa, Azpilicueta, and Fabregas. That's 8. Yeah, and then you've got 2 Uniteds, De Gea and Piqué, and 1 Arsenal, Reyes.
That's it.
That's the list. So
there it is.
Very nice question, Mike. I must say that's a very nice question this week. So, gentlemen, you know what? I guess we've got to go get a second guest because I feel like I wanted to talk a little bit more, but we're at the end of the plan. So, I know the folks in the chat that are listening tonight. I see Debbie Santos came in. Hi, Debbie. How are things down on the West Coast? Glad you could make it. But I think maybe we should probably try to squeeze 2 guests next week. Don't you guys think?
I think so.
Mike, what do you think?
I guess we'll have to see who we get first.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Well, we have one already, so let's hit the closing music.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn it down a little bit so I can talk over it. I guess not quite that quiet. So for episode 89 of Low Limit Football, special thanks again to Miguel Delaney from ESPNFC for joining us and giving us a great discussion of the EPL. Next week, we will have Sivan John to come on to talk to us about Argentinian football, and it looks like we may be efforting a second guest. So for episode 89 of Low Limit Football, I'm Joe Usello.
And I'm Roberto Rojas.
And I'm Mike Gore.
Thanks again for listening, everyone, and good night.
Thanks for listening.